I should tell you that this was about 14 years ago. A teacher in math class who we will call Mike was a dick. He found it funny to make jokes at the expense of students when other teachers weren't watching his classes. We had assistant teachers in our school who watched classes sometimes and often made my life hell. One of his favorite things to do was ask a question and say, let's see if the retard girl can answer. Who wants to bet she can't say anything? Making a few of the immature students laugh. I got sick of it really quick. I tried talking to the head teacher, but he told me that I needed physical evidence or witnesses to get anything done. This was a problem due to the rule about snitching I'm sure people of the UK know about. I decided to take my tape player recorder, audio, not video, and tape his classes. I carried a few cassette tapes with me and quietly recorded from under the table I was assigned at. I bring the tapes into the head teacher's office 3 weeks later, and the head said this. I know I asked for evidence, but isn't more than 12 tapes a bit excessive? I told him, you said you wanted evidence. Yeah, I had to spend my pocket money on blank tapes to record with, but now you have something. Call my mum and show the tapes. The head looked a bit shocked both at the amount and attitude. He did call my mum though. It took her an hour to get to the school from her job. When mum got there and saw the tapes on the table, she was a bit confused, but I told her that this is why I was buying tapes, why I bought blank ones and kept them with me. I explained to her about how I was going to expose Mike as a dick he was. I got told off for swearing by mum before Mike got called in. He looked pissed when he saw me. Then, when the head explained why he called and the tapes on the table, Mike went pale. He thought that because I stutter, that I wasn't smart enough to do anything about him picking on me. Fun fact, I wasn't the only one Mike poked fun at. He also took jabs at some disabled students in the class, all on my tape. It looked bad when we got through the third tape. The head told me that 3 was more than enough and the rest would just be kept as a record of evidence. He told me to wait in the hall with the reception staff while him, my mum, and Mike talked. I heard my mum's muffled screaming behind the wooden door, but didn't say anything. I just told the reception I wanted to get my lunch box as the wait could take a while. I went to the coat and bag area, where lunch boxes were kept with bags, and got my cottage cheese sandwiches. The shouting lasted a while. I think more than 20 minutes, before they called me back. The head told me that, even though I shouldn't have brought my Walkman to school, a no toys entertainment rule, I did the right thing by getting evidence. I got a warning for the Walkman recorder and Mike would be dealt with later. I go home early with mum, and I got treated to triple cheese pizza. Next day, I hear people talking at lunch. I go to my friends at their table, and they tell me Mike wouldn't be at our school anymore, because teachers are supposed to build up students, not pull them down. This is what they were told by teachers they asked when they saw an assistant teacher in Mike's class with Mike not there. I was called to the head teacher's office at the end of school and told that from now on, Mike wouldn't be working with the school anymore as he did not fit to their standards. The head teacher even apologized for not taking action sooner. I didn't see Mike till a few years later. He now stocks the shelves at Morrison's. I occasionally bump the shelves by accident, just to cause him some hassle. If I shop there, I mostly go to Asda though. A couple of years ago my parents finally saved up enough money to buy their own property. It was an empty 1.5 acre lot in the back of middle to lower class subdivision. It's only now, a little over 3 years later, that they have finally finished the majority of construction and are now living there. The property is a rectangle with the long sides being north and south. Neighbors live against the south edge. Train tracks run along the north side of the property and a road runs toward the property on the east and west side, then turns south. The issue are the roads that run toward the property. The road from the west has a sharp curve, and instead of stop sign, there are only 3 arrow signs signifying that the road turns. From what my parents have learned from the neighbors, many people speed through the turn and either hit the guardrail or one of the directional arrow signs, overcorrect and tear up someone's yard, and once a driver ended up running through a homeowner's basement wall. Their house is split level. This was the first issue. The second issue is with the road from the east of the house, which has a similar problem, but that side the road lines up perfectly with my parents' driveway. For years people would drive from the asphalt road to the gravel paved driveway and then into the grass and through the bare property. As soon as my parents purchased the property, my father began to mow it every other week and generally spent all his free time tending to overgrown weeds, small hills of gravel left by the previous owner, and burning out stumps of small trees. The biggest concern of his was to stop people from driving through the property. Right away my dad placed signs in the driveway entrance. One was your normal private property, no trespassing, and the other danger, no outlet. The other sign was, because he had acquired old wooden telephone poles to line the west side of the property. I have no idea how he did this. My father has a knack for acquiring odd things. You can see where things are going here. Not 1 week after putting up the signs and having the telephone poles placed, some crazy lady drives down the driveway, actually hitting and bending one of the signs. She continues through the property, only to get her car hung up on the telephone pole. The fact that she literally drove over 500 feet before coming to the telephone poles and didn't think it was a good idea to turn around is beyond me. Unable to free her car, she has to call a tow truck, and our neighbor calls my father and the police. Upon arriving, the lady is livid, screaming and cussing at my dad and at the police officer, telling him she's going to sue him, that the telephone poles are dangerous, that he'll be covering the cost of her vehicle repairs. My dad's not having any of it. He tells her to go to hell. He expects her to pay the property damage and that she can go ahead and take him to court if she won't pay. After she finally leaves, my dad visits the tow yard where her car is, photographing and measuring the scrape caused by his danger sign and documenting his bent sign and its height off the ground. Finally, after a couple weeks, my dad goes to the county court. The crazy lady is there ranting about how dangerous it is to have the telephone poles where they are. She says there were no signs on the property and that she didn't know she couldn't drive through. Again, she drove 500 feet through a mowed lawn, not even dirt, actual grass. My dad delivers his defense to the judge and shows him the bent sign and the scratches on her car and how the height of the scratches match up. She again presses that there were no signs there and that my dad put those up after the accident, that her car always had those scrapes along the side. At this moment, the judge looks through their paperwork and asks, if the scrape was already on your car, then why did you put it on your insurance claim? Busted. At the end of the day, the judge ruled in my father's favor and slapped her with insurance fraud. But that's not the end of it, folks. A couple weeks later, my dad gets a letter in the mail from the courthouse letting him know that if she hasn't paid him what she was ordered to, which she didn't, to come by the courthouse, they give him paperwork to deliver to her employer so that they can deduct what she owes him out of her wages. Here is the best part. This crazy lady was working for the county. She was making more than enough to pay what she owed him, and her job had been having issues with her. When my dad delivered the paperwork, it was just what they needed. They fired her and deducted the last of what she owed him from her last paycheck. Had a situation a few years back with an annoying upstairs neighbor. I lived in the ground floor flat of a detached house in Cornwall, and the upstairs flat would always throw a party on a Sunday night. From 10:30, when the local pub kicked out, till 4 AM, or until everyone passed out. Tried to be nice and ask them just to turn it down a bit at midnight, despite having work at 7 AM on the Monday. Got a ref off Yanob for my trouble, and of course they turned it up and heard a loud chorus of "Cunt CC" afterwards. Charmers. So, I'm an audio engineer by trade now, but at the time I was working as a glazier and playing a lot in bands, so that Sunday I used my decibel meter to work out exactly how loud it all was. The next morning, I got my mate Dave at work to fabricate up a UPVC speaker stand that would hold my PA speaker's cone up to the ceiling, rigged up a decibel sensor to trigger playback on an MP3 player after 3 continuous minutes of overage. The MP3 player had a loop of Chumbawamba Tub Thumping's chorus on it that would run for 20 minutes then reset. Cue next Sunday. I set it up at 7 PM, turned off all the lights, locked up and headed to Dave's to sleep for the night. I returned Monday evening and found wanker sprayed on the door, but the parties stopped after 2 more weeks of tub thumping. Apparently, they eventually called the police, pretended they weren't being disruptive, just having a few friends staying over for a quiet gaming session. But when the police came round, they showed them that the way to set it off was to make a sustained amount of loud noise. A friend who knew someone at the party said the police just said matter-of-factly, "Well, don't make loud noise then," and left. I think seeing wanker still sprayed on the front door downstairs helped out there too. Thank you for watching. Slap that like button and comment your opinion on these stories below. I'm waiting. Write that comment. Seriously. Have you written it yet? If you don't comment, you make a bunny cry somewhere. You're not that kind of person. I know. Anyways, peace out and catch you tomorrow.